Yeah. So yeah, thank you everyone for being here. I love Remake and I've really enjoyed working with Allison. It was the symposium that we met at was a really special event and I'm so glad we connected. Um, Fiber sheds are a really exciting and important part, I think, of the slow fashion conversation because it bridges the agricultural um, it yeah the agriculture of fibers with uh, like real actual people who are doing things. So the idea behind a fiber shed, it's based on the term watershed, and it kind of means um, finding things that are sourced within a 250-mile radius. And so we're getting like really hyper local with our fiber sheds across the US. So if you have a fiber shed in your radius, definitely connect with them. I highly recommend it. I have, oh, and Allison, awesome. You just dropped a link in the chat. I have a presentation that I'm going to share. And let me see if I remember how to do this. I'm going to share my screen. And yes, okay. Okay, so present. Okay, can everybody see that? I think I started somehow like towards the end, so we're just gonna go all the way back to the beginning. Okay. So I'm Rebecca Harrison. I am the founder of Old Flame Mending. And Old Flame Mending is situated in Pittsburgh. That's where I'm at right now. And that's also where I grew up. I technically grew up in a county south of Pittsburgh, Washington County. It's pretty rural. It is not pictured in this image. It is beyond. So I grew up about an hour south of a city, was very much a country girl, and wanted nothing more but to leave and go to a bigger city whenever I graduated from high school. I didn't really end up doing that. I went to SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design in Georgia, and I studied fibers there. And I also minored in design for sustainability. During my time in school, which was 2010 to 2014, I was trying to figure out exactly what my trajectory was going to be and how I was going to really build a career for myself. And I was honestly really struggling with that because I had a lot of people around me being very like career motivated and wanting to work for really large brands. Um, and I was cheering on all of my friends as they were pursuing that, but it just wasn't really making sense for me. And um, I also, yeah, came from a pretty like rural and agricultural background, and wanted to figure out a way to bridge design with handmade, and kind of more simple living. Um, Whenever I was in college, it was kind of at the beginning of this Rust Belt movement, when like things were really being revived in places like Pittsburgh and Cleveland, and like the maker movement was also happening. So I was starting to think of possibilities, and I didn't really figure it out until much later. But I think just kind of wanting to be part of the maker community and wanting to have a business of my own was what really kind of put me on a path. Um, I knew that I didn't want to put new stuff out into the world. Um, this is a graph that really illustrates what the total fiber demand is in the fashion industry. And you can see that this red line represents polyester. Um, and then there are other fibers. Cotton is like the second largest one past 20, past 2008, probably really. Um, and I don't, I know that a lot of us here are like very in tune with what is happening with fast fashion. So I'm not going to tell you a bunch of stuff that you already know. But something that I always come back to is just how much changed since the 2008 recession, and how there was this really big event economically that really rippled out into so many facets of our lives. Um, so I was in college after 2008 and everything was changing. And I was thinking about polyester. And at the same time, there was a lot of fracking happening in the county where I grew up. Fracking is it's basically this process, if you're not familiar, that extracts natural gas from land. And it really started gaining a lot of traction in the early aughts. And Washington County was actually an area that wasn't hit quite as hard from the recession because fracking was such a large industry there. And it was bringing a lot of economic stability to the region, while at the same time doing a lot of damage to the earth, and also creating a really kind of like get rich quick scheme for a lot of people in my area, that I and many other people knew wasn't going to be sustainable income. Um, so I'm at school while all of this is happening, and I'm coming home from break, and I'm thinking about the connection between natural gas extraction, which is petroleum, and polyester. And I recently learned that a lot of what was fracked in Western Pennsylvania at that time went to the plastic industry. And polyester is plastic. Um, so seeing that connection was really important for me because I was in school with all these people who were setting out to design new clothes to be put out into the world. And it's this really removed, glamorous thing when I was seeing like the real life people who were being affected and the real life land that was being affected by this industry. One question that I love, that my late friend would always say was, what can we do with what we have now? And this was kind of a guiding principle for me in starting my business. I didn't have a lot when I started this business. And to be honest, I still don't have that much. I am not like getting rich quick from this. It truly is my passion. And I feel really lucky to be able to keep doing it. But I think that this question not only drove my like starting my business, but also just mending as a whole. We are taking things that we already have and using what we got, instead of putting new stuff out into the world all the time. Um, so Old Flame Mending, we do many things, basically repair and alterations, but that includes zipper replacement, patching, darning. We do some custom sewing. We recently got our chain stitch machine up and running, which we're really excited about. And that's going to allow us to do more decorative stitching. And yeah, we do leather repair. Pretty much if it's made of fabric, we can usually work with it. One thing that well, there's two things that we don't do. We don't really work on bridal gowns, and we also um, don't create new things. So if somebody comes to us, and we get this request a lot, and they say, I have this skirt that I love. Can you make me like, can you draft the pattern and make me a new one? That's one thing that we just kind of draw the line at, and we are happy to refer them to somebody if that's what they choose to do. But I try to divert the conversation to, well, what don't you like about the skirt that you already have? Um, we just started as a pop-up, just two girls, two gals who had sewing machines and some sewing supplies that had been passed down from our grandmothers, and scrap fabric in our like own personal collections at home. Um, and we would pop up every other week at a boutique in town, and then it eventually grew, and we were able to open a brick and mortar shop in 2021, or sorry, 2022. Um, and it has definitely been a very slow build. And we have been just really scrapping things together as time has gone on. We've also gone through a lot of changes. I started with a business partner who, Tia Tumanello, who I owe so much to. She is a broom maker now. Her business is called Husk Brooms, and she makes really beautiful things. Um, so yeah, a lot of changes. We're also now, we have gone from a partnership of two to a team of 9. This is a picture from the inside of our shop, and we have some really beautiful windows. But yeah, these next few images are just some illustrations of some things that we have mended. A backpack that needed new straps, a jumpsuit that was way too long on the person, so we raised the waist and shortened the pant hem on. Um, this was a custom shirt that we did for somebody's wedding. We embroidered his initials on the back, and we used some scraps from his grandmother's jacket that we had hemmed for his partner, and then took the scrap pieces and incorporated it into his jacket. A pair of jeans that were really shredded down the crotch. This was for a farmer who was apparently doing like high kicks and splits in the field. And we got those repaired for him using a technique called denim darning. Quilts, we have worked on so many quilts. We find that quilts are really something that people tend to hold really near and dear. And every quilt tends to have a story. This was one of our first projects, actually. It was a sweater that had been completely riddled with moths. There are even more holes outside of this frame, and it took us many hours to mend. And because it was one of our first projects, we absolutely undercharged for it. But the customer who brought this into us, she was our first customer, and she is still a customer today. And she's really special to us. an LL Bean bag that a vintage collector brought to us. It is pretty stained, but it was also very holy. So now it's just stained. Another sweater. This is using a patching and darning method. Some of our customers kind of, they don't always want to pay all that it takes to do just all darning on a sweater. So we offer patching and darning as an alternative to help keep the cost down. And also just add more texture too. I think it's a really great creative technique that incorporates some patterning that people really like. This was a jacket that was in a bike accident, and we patched it up for her. Some jeans that had some big holes in the knees. Yeah, and I think I'm realizing how much of like the detail I actually remember about each garment. I did not work on all of these. I have a team of 8 people, like I said. So we still have, I still have pretty good relationships with a lot of the customers that come in. I'm not talking to every single person anymore, but every garment really does have a story. And when we look at, these examples that I just shared, which are just a drop in the bucket, we've worked on, I think at this point, we're over 11,000, we might be over 12,000 garments since we first started. When I think about all of those garments that would have gone to the landfill, I'm like, okay, we're making not a very big dent, but a dent nonetheless. And I just think about the possibilities for, if we continue, if this mending movement continues, which I think it will, just how many garments we could divert from the landfill if we're mending for ourselves or our family or our friends, or if we, start our own mending service. There is so much to go around. And we came out with a line of bumper stickers too. Some of them are silly, some of them are a little bit more serious. But that's been kind of like just a fun little side project for us. Another garment, this was very Pittsburgh centric, United Steelworkers, that we did some darning on. This is just kind of an illustration of like how we grew from the time we started to whenever we opened the brick and mortar. This is an old slide actually that I used during a pitch deck for something else, but this just kind of illustrates like how much opening like a physical brick and mortar shop really helped with our sales and our reach with people. So benefits of mending as a service, and this is again like kind of more like from the business side of things, is that we're contributing to a green economy, which is continuing to grow. Our customers are typically spending less on mending than they would to buy a new garment. This isn't always true for all garments. We definitely have had people come in who spent, $5 on something at the thrift store, and then the mending and alterations ends up being significantly more than that. But the hope is for people to have something that really is functional through the mending and that also fits them really well through the alterations. And so through that, people are able to spend less on new clothes all the time because they just have less pieces that they actually love. And that kind of goes into the third benefit, looking and feeling good in your clothes. And then the last one is elongating the life of a garment or textile that they hold dear. And this is a really important piece to me because I think that textiles are really emotional and that there is always a lot of story with textiles, especially things like quilts or sweaters that have been passed down through generations, or just something that someone found on a vacation. There are so many reasons why people love their garments. And I always thought that that was something that like only a select few people experienced. Like I thought, oh, well, I really like fashion and I went to school for fibers. So like garments and textiles are really meaningful to me. But I have experienced that many people really cherish their clothes. And it always really makes me laugh whenever someone who isn't really in this space will learn about my business and they might not understand it at first. Like they'll be like, oh, you mend clothes? Well, why can't people just buy new things? Um, or like, oh, that's weird that you want to like keep a pair of jeans around for that long. But then like those same people always kind of will come back or backtrack and they'll say, oh, well, I actually do have this garment that I really care about. Or do you provide this service? And yeah, I think it just really speaks to the power of textiles. So things that I love about my business is that every garment is different. So it stays really interesting. Um, and yeah, just having that feel good customer connection, which I touched on in the last slide, just really connecting to people through clothes. I love exercising my craft, although now my craft has become spreadsheets and like payroll and managing. But I even though I'm not doing as much sewing anymore, I'm still learning something all of the time. And we have a really amazing group of people who work with me, and I'm always learning things from them. Um, yeah, and then just diverting garments from the landfill. I think it feels good, it feels important, and this has been my aim this whole time. Challenges. This was also a benefit, but every garment is different. um, so we're not on a production line. We're not doing the same thing over and over again. We definitely have processes and we have different protocols that we follow, but there are things that come up that are unforeseen all the time. Another thing is growing versus like having more control. So whenever I was just working for myself and I didn't really have to manage anyone, it was really easy to have control over everything. Now that we are growing, I have to let go of some of that control and delegate a little bit more. One thing I've really learned about this business is that customer service is really key. Um, Customer service has, I think, always kind of come naturally to me, but I think that, you know, I'm always learning things about how to best serve our customers and also how to best train our staff to best serve our customers. And then with any business, like, yeah, just like funding and cash flow and tax season and all of those things that aren't very creative or aren't very exciting are things that you have to deal with as a business, even if you're a mending business. So that pretty much wraps up my presentation. Our slogan is "We'll fix anything but a broken heart." And you can find us at our website. We're also on Instagram. And you can see more of our work and learn a little bit more about what we do. I hope to answer any questions in this next part of this meetup. And it can be questions about my business or like how to mend something, anything about mending. I'm happy to answer the best that I can.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Was amazing to hear, everybody's personal story is different, but the longer I do this work and talk to people in the community, the messaging is always very similar, right? Like we come to this work because like we want to divert things from landfill. We have that aha moment or we're just like, wait, this is like the fashion industry is not glamorous behind the scenes. Like what
Yeah.
can I do about it? And it's incredible to hear, how many garments you've saved. The fact that you have staff now and have a brick and mortar, like that is just so, so amazing. And yeah, does anybody have any questions for Rebecca?
I have a question. Hi.
Hi.
So I organize mending workshops for a local creative reuse place called Scrap at the libraries, and I'm doing one this Saturday at the main library, and I'm trying to do like a little kind of have like a little thing that I'm doing, little zine of sewing survival skills.
Very cool.
And I found it from repairwhatyouwear.com. And then I'm trying to make it into this little format. And I'm wondering what you think are the best like stitches or quick things for people to try to learn. Like at the clinics, this one time, it's the first time we're going to be doing like a mending circle where one of the menders will actually teach people hand skills. And before, it's been one-on-one with the mender repairing and talking people through the process, but the person's not actually like doing it. So if you have any advice on like what's like the best, easiest way for people to like learn. Or
Totally.
another question I have, I want to have them do like visible mending and fun things, but people are very like, oh no, can it match? And part of my reason is because I want them to be creative, but also we don't have every single color of thread, and
It's impossible.
so like it's impossible to match.
Yeah.
So if you have any advice on me like helping them decide on visible mending, that would be awesome.
Totally. Yeah, so I teach an intro to mending class. It's our most popular workshop. And the things that I like teaching people in that class are how to sew on a button, which a lot of us learned at some point in home ec, but maybe we've forgotten, or maybe people aren't being taught that anymore. So it's really amazing how empowering just learning how to sew on a button can be, because that's like a very easy and quick thing. But it's something that people surprisingly tend to be like kind of intimidated by.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I usually do. And then like just a straight stitch. I teach them like the difference between like a running stitch and a back stitch, and when those two stitches are useful.
Right.
And then and then kind of like I kind of give them opportunity to practice those stitches. And then I give them the option to do patching as well. Usually I'll just bring a lot of fabric that I love and hope that other people love it too. I think the more variety you have, so that people can be inspired, I think it will make them willing to like kind of like latch on to visible mending, because if they find something that really speaks to them, they'll say like,
Right.
okay, this is something I want to incorporate into my garment.
Yeah, that's good. It's funny, when we first started doing this, I was like, I'm gonna have all these buttons because I know everyone's gonna be bringing in buttons to sew on.
Yeah.
And it took until our 8th clinic for the first button to be sewn on. And we were like all so excited.
It's so hard to
We're like, I don't understand. I was like, do you not wear things with buttons?
Right.
But I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's really great that you're teaching that. And you're in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Cool. What is the name of the organization? You're teaching at Scrap? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'll have to look them up.
And it's with a grant from the San Francisco environment. So they have like a waste zero initiative. So that's part of that.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Bryce, I see you have your hand raised too.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Could you say that this whole program was very demure, very mindful, very cutesy. Just got to say that right there, right now. Love it, love it, love it. I just want to say I'm loving Old Flame Mending. I just want to say thank you so much. You're just incredible. You're an icon. I just I just like to just say that actually that it's just incredible. And I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. Is like, have you ever considered like rolling this into like a subscription model to try and be able to like, get people to maybe to invest more in like, like a subscription model to it? Has there been do you do other things just in garments? So, you did like tote bags, but have you done like maybe like throws and stuff like that? Because I mean, I'm looking to potentially set up a wee project with Edinburgh Street Stitchers with Mary Morton, who is actually an absolute icon who I'd recommend you to follow in Scotland, who does incredible work and has taught me to become actually to go back into sewing. So I'm going to get a sewing machine back in my hands. So I'm just recovering from a chest infection. So I'm just so delighted to be here. Um, so this is like very therapeutic for me. So anyway, that's that. And so I'm looking to make like a patchwork quilt, out of fast fashion fabrics and basically donate it to basically homeless community in Edinburgh who basically keep warm basically. So I'm looking to do something like that. Any advice or support you would give me about that, love to hear that. Thank you so much. And as I say, you're an amazing person, and you're like the wee Mary Morton from Pittsburgh. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Bryce. That's really sweet. Yeah, so to answer your first question, which was a subscription model, that is something I've sort of thought about, but not quite sure how to implement. Our, yeah, our pricing is very complicated. So I think, that might be a future phase, but I haven't quite hashed that out yet. And then as far as making things from scraps, so we do alterations, and we do a lot of like bridesmaids alterations. It's a lot of hemming. And so we get a lot of these really strange, long, skinny pieces of fabric that are made of synthetic materials. And we have just been hoarding all of them because I don't want to throw them away, but it's starting to really become a problem. So one thing that we started doing was making scrunchies out of them. But we're also in touch with a few different makers in our area who need scraps for certain projects. So there's one person who makes these huge crocheted poofs that they, like one of those like sitting poofs. It's like an adult beanbag chair. And she uses our scraps for filling. As for quilts, that is a really cool idea. As far as for tips that I would recommend for that, I personally am not a huge quilter, but I think it could be really great to like find the balance between using fabric that is really functional and also beautiful, and also stuff that like people aren't going to want to use for other projects. Um, because I think there's so many undesirable textiles out there. Um, but like whenever you put things into quilts or stuff that's more piecework, I think you can get really creative with color and texture and how things play together. Um, but that's such a cool idea, and I would love to get any updates on that. If you want to send me an email, and like send like a picture about like how the project's going. It looks like
Thank you so much. And I just want to just say, this is such, actually, again, I'll say, this is very demure, very mindful, very cutesy. Love this speed zoom. I'll pass on to someone else. Thank you so much.
thanks, Bryce. Okay, I see that we have a few hands raised. I don't know exactly the order that people raise their hands. I'm gonna kind of go left to right. Okay, cool. So Andrian, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Sorry, thank you so much for your time tonight. My name is Andrian, and I'm in Springfield, Virginia. So I'm a ambassador here in the DMV area, in the DC area, and thank you so much for speaking tonight, and just keep on doing the great work of business. I know it's so hard, and sometimes it's frustrating when you're doing a business and you're not doing what your talent is to do the administrative, but it's awesome that you're doing it, and I'm so willing to support, and I'd love to advertise your business to Mending Circle, because I've recently started doing a mending workshop at a creative reuse center here in Alexandria, Virginia, called Upcycle, and we are starting a monthly meetup kind of thing, but 1 hour a week isn't like, or a month, I mean, in a month isn't enough time for people to do mending. And so I'm sure a lot of them would love to send their work to a shop like yours. So I hope to share your information. But I wanted to ask, do you do like stuff with, if somebody were to send you like old tablecloths, like I have like tablecloths that my grandmother embroidered or crocheted, and I would love to turn them into like blouses or anything like that, but I'm just not at that skill level. Do you do that kind of service or anything like that?
So we do to an extent. We have taken old tablecloths and made them into table runners. We've turned like old t-shirts into pillows. We kind of keep it pretty simple. A blouse is admittedly a little bit outside of our wheelhouse. But I would I would see if there is anybody who does custom clothing in your area, and I'm sure that they would love to work on something like that. Um, yeah, there's a lot that goes into patterning and kind of like making sure that stuff's going to fit correctly. So that's the only reason why we kind of stay away from that. But that's such a wonderful idea and such like a nice way to honor the textiles that have been passed down through your family.
Thank you. I really I just wanted to know, yeah, it's something that I'll see like on Pinterest or, on like TikTok or Instagram. And I'm always like, wow, that's so cool that they turned that into, a wearable art. And then I'm like, oh, how do I do it? So I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and then Mira had a question.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you so much for this. I mean, it's what you're doing is very inspiring. And again, once again, like kudos to you for growing your business and um keeping your priorities grow and keep helping people out there. And what you're doing is just so inspiring. So I really thank you for, for doing this and sharing, first and foremost. My question is that there are two things. So first is whether, as people know what you are doing, what you and your team are doing, um, do you get like donations of people just want to dump their stuff to you? Like, oh, I know you're doing this stuff, so I don't use these things anymore. So can I just donate them to you? And how do you handle that? Because frankly, I'm a textile upcycling artist and I get that kind of inquiry all the time. So it's like, why do you want to dump me your stuff? So that's one. Um, and then the second thing is that when you get like sweaters and stuff that you're darning so beautifully there, do you keep the type of fibers the same? So for example, if it's like a cotton sweater, do you only use like cotton threads or wool or whatever and not use polyester, for example? Or do you just handle it with whatever it is that you have on hand?
That's a really good question. Yeah, so first answer, yes, absolutely. We get stuff dumped on us all the time. So we've really had to set some boundaries in place for that. The number one thing that we get phone calls or like inquiries about is um a situation where someone's like family member or like neighbor has passed away and they have this sewing machine that they don't really know what to do with. Um, and at the beginning, I was like entertaining every single inquiry about that and asking to receive pictures of sewing machines, and it just got really out of hand. So we don't take sewing machines anymore. We really don't take fabric anymore either, because again, there was a situation where we got like 10 huge boxes of fabric one time, and sadly not all of it was usable, and so we ended up having to sort through a lot, and it's a really tough balance sometimes, like existing under capitalism and also like wanting to just save everything. So we yeah so we we've like just kind of like stopped taking stuff, and trying to divert it to like reuse stores or people who actually will use it, and yeah, asking people if it's okay first if we like refer donations to them, um because yeah, also like people like you who are doing upcycled things, again, just like totally overloaded. uh so second question was matching fibers with fibers. So this is kind of something that I do on a case by case basis. um we we do a technique called machine darning. And this is the lower profile, like less visible mend that we do. I don't think I really had many pictures of that in my presentation, but it's really similar to the denim darning that we did with like the split jeans. And for that technique, it's most people want it to be like virtually invisible. So we try to get thread that matches really perfectly. And sadly, it's really difficult to source cotton in the array of colors that polyester thread is available. So we are using a lot of polyester thread. I hope that that changes someday. We also, whenever we're doing patching on something, it kind of depends on the garment and on the customer, but my general rule of thumb is whenever you put a patch on something, you want the weight of the fabric to be similar. So even if it is like a knit t-shirt and the fabric that we want to use is like a printed cotton woven, as long as the weight is the same, I think it's fine. Because if the weight is different, if you're putting like a really heavy patch onto something that's pretty lightweight, you're going to start dealing with tearing and just, yeah, stuff getting weighed down in places where it probably shouldn't over time. And then for darning, so like sweater repair and sock repair, that's a situation where I do try to keep like with like. So if we're working on a cashmere sweater, I want to stay in like the protein fiber family. We typically use either wool or an alpaca silk blend for all of our protein fiber. And protein fiber just refers to anything that comes from an animal, which includes silk. And then for anything that's not protein fiber, if it's cotton or if it's a synthetic, we usually use cotton embroidery floss for mending. Yeah, do you have any follow-up questions about any of that?
No, I think it's kind of the same with what I'm doing because I do a lot of repairs as well. So I'm just curious on, well, I'm doing it this way. How do other people are doing it? So I just feel relief. Because sometimes I feel like I feel guilty because oh, this is like a cotton thing, but why am I using a polyester thread to try to repair? But it's like you said, it's just, and I think Bryce is saying something here. And for me, the polyester threads are still stronger. And my machine is a Juki 5550 industrial. And sometimes the cotton thread would break depending on the text. Text
Sure.
30 tends to break. But the polyester ones very rarely give me any kind of tension problems. So that's just the reality of it, unfortunately. I do have one comment that you were saying earlier. Some people were asking to have their old t-shirts turned into pillows. What I'm doing, like my shirt, is actually from pillows.
Oh my gosh.
Turn into a t-shirt.
That's amazing. Did you make t-shirt?
Yeah.
It's great. It looks really good.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
cool.
you, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you, Mira.
I have a question. So I saw on your website when I was putting all this stuff together, you have like a lot of things that you guys mend, whether it's like pants, sweaters, socks, jackets. What do you guys get the most from people?
Our number one mend is the crotch repair in a pair of jeans. So like from the thigh rub and with jeans, people want to really hold on to those. It's like once you find a pair of jeans that fits you well and are just worn in a really great way, you want to keep them around. So that is definitely number one.
Number one.
Yes.
Does anybody else have a question for Rebecca? I know we only have a few minutes left, and I could sit here, Rebecca, and I feel like listen to you all day and have people ask questions. You're so knowledgeable and you have so much experience. So does anybody else have anything?
I do just want to say I'm like definitely welcome like more questions, but I do just want to say that like the knowledge and experience, it has been a lot of trial and error. And so don't worry about like doing it like the most perfect way, because you can always, like, the beauty of mending is if it doesn't work out the first time, you can just mend it again. Um, I learned a lot from like mending my own clothes and figuring out what was wearing out after mending it and what was like actually staying intact. So, yeah, just try it. Again, like, the world needs more menders, so just like do what makes sense to you. I think that it can be like more intuitive than people sometimes think it is.
That is such amazing advice. I feel like too, when I started mending, I was like looking on Pinterest for tutorials. And then when I would do it myself, it didn't look just like the picture. And I used to like be like, I'm doing it wrong. And then just slowly learning and hearing you talk too, there is no, I feel like, wrong way to do it, especially with like Amy, what you were saying about visible mending. It could, be more fun and crafty. And if it repairs it and holds up, I feel like there isn't always a wrong way to do stuff just because it doesn't look like the picture.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. I think we're all always like our own worst critic too.
Yeah, Bryce, you have a secondary question?
Yes, please. Could I just ask you, so how did you actually like learn the craft? How did you, what was your story of actually like learning how to do this? And would you, I know that the repair for the bending and repairing website was mentioned.
Mhm.
I really like that website. I forgot the name, sorry. It's nearly 1 o'clock in the morning, forgive me. But yeah, I just would like to know your story about how actually that, because I mean, and also, do you ever like employ people, or do you ever like have people who come in, or you like employ who have got like any disabilities like neurodivergence and stuff like? Because I'm neurodivergent, I'm
Mhm.
autistic, so um, I would love to learn. I'd love to know like, is there any sort of like accessible ways of which you can be able to like learn these things? Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, so I learned mending. I started with a technique called sashiko, which is a Japanese technique. And that's kind of like where it sort of started. But I also worked for a tailor shop and they would turn a lot of stuff away. And it was kind of like hard sometimes because I had to tell people no when I knew that we had like all these amazing seamstresses working for us who could definitely fix people's clothes. Um, so I learned a lot there. And then um, definitely like a lot of kind of making things up as I went along and then learning the right way or like kind of learning an easier way. Um, yeah, I guess right way isn't the word that I want to use, but like an easier way or like a more sensible way. Um, and then YouTube being like really helpful too. I also like learned how to knit when I was pretty young, so having that knowledge and just kind of understanding how fabric was actually made was always really helpful. Um, and then, yeah, like neurodivergence and accessibility is actually a really important part of our business. We have a couple people with disabilities on our team, and um, we have a lot of customers and people who work with us who are, um, have some kind of disability or who are um, immunocompromised. So we actually still mask in our shop, which is like really, really rare these days. But it's become a really important thing because of the people who we work with and the people who we serve to keep doing that. And we really are like kind of like people first with how clothing is supposed to fit and function. So we have people who come to us who like have certain like tactile needs or certain needs with how a garment is put on that we have learned how to serve. So it's always a work in progress, and I think just like the nature of our work really like opens us up to that, and it's definitely for the better. And then a lot of so we have 5 contract sewists who all work from home, which gives them flexibility. And I have had a couple contract sewists who have said that the work is like really great for them for like various reasons, but sometimes it's because of like neurodivergence and the need to work in like a really quiet environment alone. So yeah, that's what I have to speak on that. I hope that answers your question. Are there any other questions? I guess I'll put it over to Allison now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rebecca. And I feel like it was just so great talking to you. We didn't even get to any mending, but I feel like that's perfectly okay. This has been extremely powerful and inspiring from the time you started until now. Like I have been like holding tears back the entire time because this is like the power of this community. It's very cool. Everybody's doing such cool things. And to see the stuff that you're doing in your community that you can't even see on your website is like absolutely amazing. That it's truly about the mission and the movement. So thank you so much. Thank you everybody for being here today. I'll drop Rebecca's website in the chat once more. And you can also follow her on Instagram on here. I highly recommend it. And thank you, Rebecca, for not only joining us today for everything you do. I feel so grateful to have met you earlier this year.
Thank you. And remake is so important. And yeah, I would love to maybe, figure out another time when we can do some more hands-on stuff with mending or whatever. I'm always happy to be in spaces like this. It's really important. So keep doing the great work that you're doing.
Thank you. Well, I hope everybody has a nice evening. I think it's night for everybody here now. Bryce, you got to go to bed. It's really nighttime for you, my guy. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Huge thank you, Rebecca, and I hope to see you all soon.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
I'm going to my bed now.